Hey everyone, welcome today to our Launch LinkedIn Live. Today we are going to be meeting Michelle. Michelle, where are you dialing in from?
I'm in The Hague in the Netherlands.
Awesome. I was just hearing that you're actually from the cheese capital of the Netherlands. So
Yeah, I'm from the area around Gouda, so there's a lot of cheese involved there.
nice. We always love a bit of cheese chat at launch. So today Michelle's joining us from Converge, and we're going to be talking about measurement that matters. 3 things you should be doing now for better insights. And you know, I posted about it briefly on LinkedIn, but it is interesting how a lot of e-commerce brands are still over optimizing maybe for purchases rather than profit. So give us a quick summary, Michelle, of the whistle stop tour you're going to take us on today.
All right, yeah. I think the main thing you're telling here is what you're seeing for a lot of companies is that they start out, get bigger, and then have a lot of existing customers, and then you'll see that they plateau on their spend on the campaigns, and that's where they need to make a change. And that's really where getting better quality data into your ad platforms, understanding where your customers are actually coming from, that is something that I really want to touch on today. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for a lot of companies still.
I totally agree, and at launch, measurement is like a really big pillar of what we're focusing on this year. I should say, of course, you're going to come to our conference in Bristol on the 12th of March. I'll just put up the QR code for tickets. You're going to be talking, it's all about growth, that conference, and you're going to be talking about how to set up your tracking for growth. And of course, your history in your past life, you did performance marketing as well, didn't you?
I did. I think I'm in the digital realm for around 20 plus years now. So I think I have hands-on experience with ad buying, with CRO, SEO, everything on that end. But also I have a big technical background. So that's where my sweet spot is. And yeah, over the last 10 years, my specialty is in everything that's regarding data tracking for marketing. So yeah.
Brilliant. Well, that is a lot of experience to bring to Converge. And if you were to kind of sum up Converge and in a sentence, what is Converge trying to do for their clients?
Yeah, so the basic thing for us is that we try to bring in an all-in platform, which brings high quality tracking with high quality analytics and reporting without the big technical implementation on there. And that's something that I've seen personally over the last years, that getting to that level is so demanding on the technical side that a lot of people get lost on how to get the maximum out of it. And that's exactly where Converge comes in. So you can set up the highest quality tracking, the highest quality reporting in less than an hour.
And we can vouch for that. I mean, our head of data and analytics, Ian, is a big fan. We've obviously got a joint case study we'll be working on with one of our skincare clients, who was able to get much better data quality. There was a terrible discrepancy between what was actually happening in Shopify and what was happening in GA4. I think it was over 25% discrepancy. And that just hides then the data that we can use to be able to make better ad buying decisions. So it's been great working with you on that. And well, today we're live. We've got an audience of people who I'm sure will hopefully have some questions. If you're watching this on playback on YouTube or LinkedIn, do look us up on LinkedIn, drop Michelle a message. I'm sure that he'll be able to answer your questions. But right now I'm going to share the slides. And well, Michelle, take us through what you've done today.
All right, so yeah, for now I have 3 growth levers that I want to discuss, which are, from our point of view, are one of the easiest things and most impactful things that you can do. So the first one here is getting better data into your ad platforms. So this touches on getting server-side tracking, which is something that a lot of people already heard about over the last few years. Server-side tracking is something you can't ignore anymore. But even then, there is still a big discrepancy between what kind of server-side tracking. There's no one single implementation that works. So how we do it adds a lot of value. And I just want to touch base on this, on how this looks like and why it actually works. So for a lot of companies, a traditional tracking setup looks like something like this, where you have a browser and you load in a lot of pixels for Meta, for Google, for TikTok. Even that's done directly on the website, or is using something like Google Tag Manager. And the browser is then sending events like purchases or an add to cart event to Meta, Google, TikTok to optimize your campaigns on. So the biggest issue here that you're seeing over the last years is that data gets blocked. So that's either ad blockers, that's technical issues on the website, which are often unseen. So even if there's a technical issue on the website, yeah, it's not something that gets noticed pretty quickly. It's usually when you see it in your analytics that something goes down, and then you're actually already too late. So getting that data into your Meta and your Google Analytics, if it gets blocked, you'll see that for a lot of customers, I think you'll see around a discrepancy of around 5 to 20% on average between what you're seeing in your backend. Yeah, and
we've seen an improvement of at least 15% when implementing server-side tracking, and that makes if you're spending over $1 million a year on ads, that's a massive amount of data more that you're getting.
Yeah, so I think from the most is, if you can't trust the data that you're looking at, it brings in a lot of doubt in the decisions that you're making. So if you look at server-side tracking, the basis premise is pretty simple. So instead of a browser sending events to Meta and the ad platforms, it's a server. That's the simple thing of this. The only thing here is that server still doesn't know what to send. You will first need to tell it what to send. So if you have a server-side tracking solution like server-side Google Tag Manager, even if you're hosting it yourself, or if you're using a platform like Stape, then it will still require your browser to send data to your server, and then the server will forward it to Meta and the ad platforms. The problem here is that the ad blockers, the technical issues, still remain, and that event that's being sent to your server can be blocked, and we'll still see that there is a discrepancy between what you're seeing in your backend and what you're seeing in an analytics. So in a lot of cases, especially with server-side Google Tag Manager, you'll see an uplift there, but it's still not perfect. So what we try to do is, instead of relying on that browser for the events, we'll get the events from your server. So if it's Magento, if it's Shopify, or if it's a custom backend, you have all your orders. You'll know what's coming in. So we'll get those events to our server, and that's what we're forwarding to the ad platforms. So an example on our end would be, we have a Shopify website where your orders are coming in. Those are being pushed to Converge, and Converge pushes those to Meta, Google, TikTok to optimize on. So why would you do this? So the first thing is pretty obvious. It will track 100% of your purchases. So because we're getting everything from your server, we can guarantee that all your orders are coming in to Converge in your server-side tracking, and we'll forward it to all the ad platform and analytics tools that you're using. That's the basis of this. The second one is on the data enrichment side of things. So if you have, let's say you have a long customer journey, someone comes to your website, looks at your website, then enters his email for a newsletter, and you already get something there. If we capture that data, if the user came from Facebook or something, we can capture that at that point. If the user then goes away, then picks up his laptop and comes to the website again, then makes a purchase, that purchase information might be limited, but the data that we received before, if we combine that, it's even more high quality. So if we can enrich the events that we're getting from your server with data that we captured before or any other sources, you'll get even better quality data. And the last one I think is most interesting when you look at growth is doing derived events. So if you're looking at just purchases, it will include everything, but not all purchases are the same. So if we can identify that a purchase is coming from a new customer, it's already a lot more interesting to optimize on. Or if you have your campaigns that are focusing on a very specific products, then you want to know if someone bought that specific product. Those kinds of automations, those kind of filters are much easier to do on a server-side level than with client-side tracking. And that's where server-side tracking really shines.
I mean, we see it on the end when we're optimizing campaigns. A lot of clients will have our remit being new customer acquisition, making sure we're not just showing up to the same customers, that we're getting new customers, what the lifetime value of that customer is. And that's where we've really seen it help give that more richness and the fuller picture, because just relying on Google Ads tracking or GA4 it doesn't give us enough of the data quality now.
No, correct. So for me, this is the basis what you'll need to go further with. On one end, your tracking, but also on your reporting side of things. So getting that higher quality data, getting more nuanced data into your analytics will make it much, much easier to see or optimize on where am I actually spending money on new customers or specific products, where can I optimize that? And that's something that server-side tracking will be the basis for.
Great.
So yeah, I think that goes into the growth lever 2, is optimizing for the right task. And that's where I try to make it, I use a comparison with small children, actually. So if you look at ad platforms like Meta, if you look at Google Ads, the amount of analytics or AI optimized campaigns is growing is growing a lot over the last few years. So that's Performance Max on Google Ads sites, or if you have
Advantage Plus and
Advantage Plus on the Meta side, all these use algorithms to optimize your campaigns. So I'm from the old school on the Google Ads where I changed the CPCs manually and had to do everything manually. That I'm quite happy that there's good algorithms here that can take that over. But
yeah, no more single keyword ad groups.
yeah. So I think there's for a lot of customers, for a lot of marketeers, myself included, there's a change on thinking here on how you get those algorithms to work as good as possible. So I like to view them as little children. So the basis idea of this is that if you get a kid a task and give them a treat, then they'll do it. And they will repeat that task if you keep giving them a treat. The other thing that children often do is they'll try to find a shortcut to get the treat. So if you look at that from a scenario where the task is, all right, hey, you clean up your room. You've been playing all day. It's chaos. Clean up your room. If you do that, you can get a piece of candy. So they'll probably be happy. But the shortcut here is probably, I'm just going to shove everything under my bed. It looks clean and I'm getting my treat. I'm all good with that. So if you want to optimize on that, you have to change the task. So instead of asking, clean up your room, properly clean up your room. The treat is the same, but the task is different. So you can look at this the same thing on ad platforms as well. So if you ask a platform, if you ask Meta or Google to say, all right, hey, generate purchases for me. if you generate a purchase from me, you're going to get a treat. It's not as sweet as a candy, but they'll optimize on conversions. We'll send you a conversion when someone makes a purchase. But the shortcut here is often returning customers, because for an ad platform, it's always much easier to get a existing customer to purchase something than a new customer to purchase something. So if they just want to do, if you want to ask an ad platform just generate a lot of purchases, they'll go towards those returning customers, which you'll probably already get it through your own channels or your organic search, your emails, which are often much cheaper. And this will eat up your spend and will slow down your growth on all your new customers.
Yeah, so, definitely from a performance plateau, it just means that you've got to keep upping your spend, because as you grow your number of new customers, there's, that's what they've got all of the data on your returning customers, haven't they? So they're going to go after that easiest prize. And, incrementality testing is only possible if you've got the data to be able to understand it.
Yeah, and that's it. So it's not that they're doing anything wrong, but yeah, this is how these ad platforms work and how you can trigger them to optimize on something else. So if you change this perspective to changing the task to say, all right, I don't want you getting to optimize on new customers only, on customer purchases, but generate new customer purchases. And only if you do that, you'll get a treat. And then they start optimizing on that. So if you look any further than that, you can optimize this even more. So if you say generate high value new customer purchases, so even within all new customers, try to get the highest value out of them as well. So in this case, the treat is not a conversion, but we'll give it the conversion revenue to understand which customers are better performing than another one. If you go even further than this, you can look at profit as well. So generate profitable new customer purchases. And then we're going to give him that conversion profit as a treat. And that's really where you will really need something like server-side tracking to be able to do this. So you don't want to put your profit on your client-side tracking on your website. Usually there are a lot of calculations involved that are just too tough to do on the browser tracking. And this is where server-side tracking really works. So getting the data, getting more high quality data from your backend and feeding that to the algorithms will have a massive increase on those campaigns. We see this often with new customers who switch from optimizing to purchases to new customer purchases only. They can go from 5 to 20% plus on seeing their ROAS, on seeing an increase in new customers going in from their campaigns.
Yeah, I mean, Michelle, I would say that there's a shortcut to that in Google Ads clicking, target new customers, and it's not got the data it needs. And what we've seen is where clients implement that without a tool, without proper server-side tracking, and then their ROAS drops, tanks, and their number of conversions tank because there's just not enough data in the platform to do it. So, making sure that the measurement is as accurate as possible using server-side tracking is game changing, because otherwise, if you do that shortcut, it can really impact your growth.
Yeah, correct. So it's even so you see a lot of people doing server-side tracking mainly to get to that 100%. But I think that's just step one. Getting 100% of your conversions in there is step one. Getting it on a different quality basis, that's step two. Getting more nuanced in optimizing your campaigns. So yeah, I think that's one of the things that you'll see a lot on doing ad buying, that there's a lot of optimization just by optimizing on a different event. And that's something you can already do even if you're doing just purchases. Just optimizing on purchase revenue also has is a quick step that just is a configuration on your ad accounts that will probably already give you something.
Yeah.
Yeah, on this side, that's one side of things that we at Converge focus on, is trying to get your tracking optimized. But on the other end, we also want to get more insight in where these purchases actually coming from. So,
Michelle, do you mind if I interrupt you with a quick question? Sure. Ian is asking about attribution, and he would like to know. I know that Converge allows you to choose attribution and reporting, but how does that work when feeding the data into the platform? So I think he means into Google Ads or Meta Ads.
Yeah, so the attribution side of things is something that is one part on the ad platforms itself. So Meta and Google Ads will attribute the data on their end. The biggest thing here, and that's what you're going to see a gap with what you're looking at in GA4 or what you're seeing in Converge, is that they will only look at Google Ads and Meta will only look at Meta. So they'll ignore each other, which will give you a very optimized, a very positive view on if you're looking in Meta or in Google Ads. And that's really where you want to go further into getting the data that you're getting and doing the attribution side of things and really understanding where it's coming from. So yeah, I think that's growth level 3 for me. And
right. Sorry, so I'm setting you up for growth level 3. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. It's a very complicated process for a complicated ID attribution. But if you take a lot of control over this, and if you understand it, it can be extremely powerful. So what actually drives your growth? So if you look at, this is how our reporting would look like in this case. So now we have that service side tracking set up. We know that from the purchases, we can identify the new customer purchases. So we have a report like this where we see the spend on your Meta ads, we'll see amount of purchases, but we'll also be able to see the new customer purchase from this. Based on that, be able to calculate something like a new customer CPA or a ROAS. But this still doesn't really give me an insight on, hey, but how are these campaigns working? Where in a buyer journey are they in there? Are the people interacting with Meta ads when they for the first time, or is this more on a conversion side, so as a last touch? And that's where I see a lot of people, a lot of companies are struggling, especially when they're when they're on GA4. So if I look at GA4, I've used it for the better part of my life, and it's a very cool tool to use. But it's always a bit limited. So on the pro side, yeah, it's free. That's one of the biggest thing that a lot of companies use GA4. It integrates well with Google products. It has great website analytics tools. On the con side, I do think that the attribution side of GA4 is too limited to make actual good decisions. So there's a limited set of attribution models. So it's either last touch or it's a data-driven attribution, where the data-driven attribution is, for a lot of people, just a black box. For everyone, it's a black box. You have no idea why it's attributing your conversions to touchpoint A instead of a touchpoint B. You'll just have to trust it. The other thing that you'll see often, it under-attributes your top-of-funnel campaigns. So if you're running a lot of demand gen, and that's what you'll see a lot. So if you're making decisions based on just GA4, you'll see often that your campaigns that are top of funnel get killed, even though they're highly valuable to getting in new customers, which will.
Walk did a report recently called the multiplier effect, and it I think it was 3 times kind of under attributed certainly the top of funnel campaigns.
No, exactly. So when we look at attribution, we And we always have the discussion with a lot of customers, all right, which attribution models should I use? Which will give me the perfect view? The answer from our end is there's no single one. You use attribution to look at your campaigns, look at your channels from different perspectives. And that's where attribution models really shine. So what the basis is for us would be to look at your channels and your campaigns from a first touch standpoint, from a first touch perspective, which will identify a lot of strong entry points into a buyer's journey. Your last touch, which is something that a lot of people will use, and that's really heavy on getting the conversion done and getting that purchase completed. And a multi-touch, which will give a more nuanced view on how are the different touch points in a buyer's journey contributing to an actual purchase. So to give this an example on how we would look at this is, let's say you have a bunch of campaigns and you have a lot of spend on these. We use the option in Converge to show your results with different attribution models side by side. So in this example, we have on the left, we have your new customer purchases. The first one is by first touch attribution model, and the right one is by a last touch attribution model. So if you look at the first one already, there's a big difference between the first touch and the last touch attribution. If you calculate a cost per acquisition based on this, there's a wild difference here. So it's almost $40. If you make a decision based on this, if you would look at GA4, which is heavily skewed towards last touch, yeah, you might want to make the decision to kill that campaign, even though it's a very valuable campaign that's gets people in the buyer journey, which I believe is more valuable than that closing touch point in a lot of cases. If they never interact with you, yeah, then
Absolutely.
they're not going to buy anything. So if you look at this, and so the same spend, but it's an entirely different story based on the attribution model that you're using. So that's why on the Converge side of things, we try to give the advice on using attribution models to look at your campaigns from a different perspective. If you have a demand gen campaign that's really top of funnel, look at it from a first touch attribution model. If you have a remarketing campaign that tries to drive growth, tries to close a sale, then you want to use a last touch attribution model. If you're a CMO.
If the path to purchase is a long path to purchase, how long does your data stay relevant? Like, what's the
so the data that we're gathering is infinite.
Oh, okay. So you're not fixed on the 90 days on
the attribution windows, we'll look on most cases, we'll look at a max of 30 days. So we allow you to change that on your end. So you can look at the attribution window by 30 days, by 7 days, or even by 1 day, which will again give you a lot of different perspectives. For a lot of customers, we'll see that 30 days is usually a max where a lot of these buyer journeys goes through. But if you want to look at, hey, which campaigns are working towards a longer buyer journey, then you lose the 30-day attribution window. But if you want to see which campaigns are giving me instant results, then I want to look at a 1-day view, a 1-day attribution window.
And there's more layers of complexity that you can add onto this for advanced advertisers, isn't there? You can add.
There's so much here where you can do attributing by click time or attributing by conversion time. It will have a big difference on how you can do this. So that's definitely where we come in on the attribution side. So we'll give you a good set of things you can work on from day one, and help you understand how attribution actually works and how you can leverage it to get that insight and make better decisions on your daily campaigns, on which changes you're making, or if you're making budget strategies on where should I spend. Should I spend it on Meta? Should I spend it on YouTube? Should I spend it on influencers? That's where you need insights first.
Nice. And we were talking in our pre-call about things that you're adding, like cohort analysis and more advanced, geo holdout testing, being able to see what the results of that can be. Could you want to talk a bit more about some of those advanced things?
Yeah, so I think our mission as Converge is to profitably grow the world's consumer brands. That's where we're focusing on. So right now, I think on the tech team right now is working on adding more profitability analysis, more product level analysis. We're currently doing everything that gives you detail on long-term value, but also getting a lot more detail in which landing pages are actually driving new customers, which ad details, which type of campaigns are adding growth here. So I think from our end, if you look at our LinkedIn, you'll see that we add new features almost every week. And that's where we really want to help our customers to get the best data there.
That's a brilliant overview, and I don't know how many more slides you have, but we've kind of used our slot now. But I think that that mission. Can you just say what your mission was again? That was really.
We try to help drive profitable growth for the world's consumer brands. That's where our mission is. So it's not just implement tracking or implement analytics. We want to help you grow profitably.
I think that is a lovely point to end on, because that is why we're so aligned as partners, and why we're working together so well on some of these brands. We need the data in order to be able to make the campaigns work harder, and you enable us to get that data and the brands to get that data, and ultimately it is about how you use it, and that's why being able to have that as your mission, I think, is great. Thank you so much, Michel. I'm really looking forward. Oh, look, one of my team is giving you a bit of a high five there. I love that. But I just want to pop back up quickly the fact that you're going to be talking at the CMO's Guide to Growth, our conference on the 12th of March, where you'll be able to go into even more detail, and it's how to actually set up the tracking in order to be able to optimize for growth. But that was really interesting, Michel, and thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you.
And now our whizzy end video is going to come along, which still takes me by surprise. But thank you, everyone who's watched this live. And if you've watched it on replay, do send us a message if you've got any questions. Thanks so much, Michel.
Thank you.